Live from JMT Studios, it's time for Two Jersey Kids, the best video game podcast on the planet.
What is up, all you beautiful Jersey gamers out there? This is your host of Two Jersey Kids, the video game podcast that is Two Jersey Kids. Adam Buckingham alongside me is my best friend, the best stick handler in the business, Gary Seisler. How you doing today, Gary? I am happy that I'm able to see you now because last episode 44, I was just talking to a blank screen because you weren't there.
Yeah, it's great. New webcam. I look amazing in this webcam. Crisp, clear. I don't know if that's really a good thing that I look good in this webcam, but it's awesome. I'm happy to have one, and maybe I'll be streaming sometime soon, guys. Maybe I will. I'll be posting on Twitter, but yeah.
I love your beautiful hair, Gary. You're doing the classic, Hollywood style, the flowing to the side. I really wish I had that type of hair. I am kind of jealous. My hair just magically from college on just started disappearing from the top of my head, and I wasn't a fan of that. So now I stick to the buzz cut, keep it simple. What makes my life easier. But if you guys didn't know, this is Two Jersey Kids. We are a video game podcast. We release every Tuesday and Friday, even though the Tuesday one is up in the air right now, whether or not we want to do that. But we love talking to you, interacting with you. Please follow us on Twitter at Two Jersey Kids. And if you're a new listener right now, please stay to the end. And if you think we're worthy of that subscribe button, hit that subscribe button. If you're a continued listener, we appreciate you. We appreciate everybody. If you go out and rate us on iTunes, we greatly appreciate you so much. And that's about it. Anything else I should add in there, Gary? I always sometimes go on the spiel, and I never include you. Maybe people feel left out. Maybe they feel like you should be included in the spiel. Should I just continue with what we normally do?
We're a team here. We're a team. I think we can keep as a team. You don't need to single me out or anything, but yeah.
So, Gary, before we get into the news and everything that we normally go through, what have you been up to? I haven't talked to you in a little while since we haven't done the Tuesday episode because of the 4th of July. Did you do anything fun on 4th of July? Eat, drink a lot of beer,
Actually, I didn't drink at all, but I did go in the pool for like 3 hours, and it was absolutely amazing. Yeah, sun shining straight down for like 3 hours straight. I got burned a little bit because I'm not Italian and I can't tan like you. So it was kind of beat there, but it was a lot of fun though. Had a good time. In terms of video games, I've been playing City Skylines a little bit more. I've been trying to build a city, but I've realized now that I cannot build a well-designed city with decent traffic flow to save my life. Like it's really hard. You'd be amazed. You think like, oh yeah, this looks good. This looks great. And then you get like 10,000 people living in your city and it's an absolute disaster. Terrible.
So, I mean, I guess it's representative of what we have now, where I'm in D.C. and it's just a hellhole where you can, no matter when you leave, even on Saturday or Sunday, there is traffic around the city. It is ridiculous. I don't understand, and I won't comprehend, and I don't want to play City Skylines because I'll get frustrated with the traffic there, too.
It is very frustrating. It's once you get to like a certain point, you have to basically destroy parts of your city just to fix the traffic, and I'm not willing to do that. So, my citizens are pissed.
Does destroying your city do anything to negatively affect you, or are you just one of those stubborn old white men that just won't change anything?
No, it will. I mean, it just takes down, obviously, the population and also the money I'm bringing in, which is a major problem. Because I tend to bring in a lot of green in my city. I'm just saying.
That's all that matters. The greed. You don't care about traffic as long as they're paying you. You're happy. Am I right?
Exactly. I'm like the perfect politician in this game. Absolutely. I only care about myself. But,
man, you should run for office because you just know how it's done.
Yeah. I mean, just be selfish as possible.
Exactly. But, I saw you were playing some some Player Unknown's Battleground.
You mean PUBG? But yeah, I have been playing. So I've been against this game for a long time. I remember playing or watching H1Z1 and then watching PUBG, and I always thought that PUBG was way too slow and I wouldn't be able to get into it. But I started playing, and granted, it can be very slow at times and it requires a lot of patience, but I love this game. I really do. I think it's way better than H1. And the reason being really is the gameplay itself is just so far superior. H1 right now is like a complete train wreck when it comes to hit detection, and that tends to bother me when I shoot people and don't do damage. So yeah, PUBG is a lot of fun. I won my first game last night, which was extremely exciting.
I can imagine. I watched those streams and those videos before where you get down to the end, and even as a watcher, it's just intense because you don't want to fail because you've come so far.
Well, I was I almost died twice to radiation because I was on foot, so I'm running the entire time, and the radiation field kept passing me, so I'm getting damaged. And at the very end, I happened to have enough first aid kits, which basically won me the game, because I was within probably a second of dying from radiation when I got across the line, and I was in the final zone. and I laid down, healed up, ran in. I had a sniper on my left, a guy in front of me. He was distracted, so I killed the guy he was shooting at. Ran out of cover, got shot in the back, ran behind a rock, and then he was forced to run out, and I gunned him down. It was so exciting. Yeah, I loved it, man.
Only if you're streaming. No one will ever believe that story existed. Even though you did post a picture on Twitter saying that you were number one. He was number one. All believe him.
That's the thing.
Reference.
I really want people to see it. I wish people saw that win, but it is what it is. I'll get another one. I will, and you will see it on a stream.
So, I mean, it is kind of cool that you all have now hopped into PlayerUnknown's Battleground, and you've sort of now got an appreciation for it because it feels better, looks better. I've always thought that it looked better than H1Z1, and I'm wondering if that's maybe due to the fact that the modder that created PlayerUnknown had experience modding Arma, where originally then it became, I forget what it was, DayZ, and then he sort of branched off and started creating this one. He's like, it seems like he's the savant of these Battleground games, and he seems like he knows what he's doing when he's creating something along these lines. He knows what his players want out of the. Players want responsiveness. They don't want just seems like janky gameplay that H1Z1 seems to be offering nowadays. It's
definitely true. I know personally, I actually turned down my graphic settings, like a lot of the stuff, because I was reading online, and a lot of people do that just to optimize like the frames per second that you get, because it obviously matters in the end.
Oh God, you're turning into PC Master Race talking about frames per second. Oh my God, he's changing, ladies and gentlemen. I see it before my eyes.
Yeah, so it's funny. The game still looks pretty good even on the lowest graphic settings, so it doesn't really make a difference. It just makes it easier to see some people like hiding in bushes and stuff like that. But that's basically what it is. So
is that all you've been playing, or the Steam sales have been still going on? I don't know if you purchased any random crap that you still plan on playing.
Well, it's basically over now, so I haven't bought anything besides PUBG lately. So that's pretty much it. I didn't really see another game in there that I really wanted to buy, so I was like, let's just kind of focus on these games for now.
But I saw that they plan on updating or getting a new map for PUBG.
Yeah, it's a desert map, I think.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah. That's going to be cool.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing it.
So, funny enough, I started playing that game that you purchased, Realm Grinder, just because I've been, just because of packing, I haven't really had time to play, and this is just a mobile game that I can play in, 2-minute, 3-minute spurts. If anybody's played Cookie Clicker out there, it's basically that. Have you ever played Cookie Clicker, Gary?
I have not, sir.
No, where you start off where you're just clicking the cookie and you're building cookies, and then you start building things off of that, the amount of cookies that you have. So it's basically that, just a different, you're just building. It's more of a kingdom where you're collecting money. So you sort of start off, you build farms, inns, and blacksmiths, and you start producing more, and then you can decide between if you want to be a good production or bad. Bad is for when you're not playing that often. It's for offline production while your phone or the game's off. Good is if you're sitting in there playing. I decided to do good just because I didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, I like it because it's progression. I've played it not a decent amount. I've played it as much as you possibly could, I guess, right now in the situation I'm in. But I mean, you progress up to get a certain amount of gems, and the whole purpose of the game is you keep progressing, upgrading your stuff, and then at a certain point where you feel like you're at your height, max production, where you can't get the next upgrade because it's so high, so it costs astronomical amounts. Even when you do you drop a spell, you still can't get anywhere close to it. There's a button where you hit it and you produce the amount of gems that you have total, and all your stuff goes away, but you have that certain amount of gems left that you show up on the top, and that then contributes to your next production cycle. So that adds thousands of percentage points to your production. So you constantly climb higher and higher with the amount that you can produce on each level. So there's multiple achievements in the game. So if you're playing on Steam, I'm guessing there's probably as many as there are on mobile, so 800 and some. So there's a lot to do in the game. a lot of things produce. So, for example, when you first start off and you're playing and you use a farm or an inn, you're maybe producing like 10 gold per second. But where I'm at right now with the amount of production going forward, I'm now producing like when I hit one farm, it gives me like like 1 trillion coins per second.
Damn.
Right at the beginning, and then when I hit some blacksmiths and stuff, I get up to a quadrillion. So it's like really rapid now. So then you hop, and the cool thing is like there's factions. So each faction. So for the good side, you have like elvish, angels, fairies. Bad sides like demons, goblins, undead. Then there's like a neutral side, which if you uncover certain things, then you can become like titans or druids and things along that nature. So it's sort of it's like it's basically like Cookie Clicker, which I really enjoyed. It was like a simple game, but it's kind of along those lines. And if you want to build up, keep progressing, because there's a lot of things that you can progress and get more and more achievements for the amount of stuff that you have. Like I just recently got the achievement for over 800 farms or 800 inns, and I guess it keeps progressing along those lines. So yeah, I mean, if you have it, it's free on mobile. Check it out. But yeah, I think it's definitely a cool little mobile game. That's what I've been able to play. I haven't been able to play anything else. So don't hate me, people on the internet, for playing mobile. Sorry, but Gary,
I hate you a little bit.
What? You hate me already?
Yeah, just a little bit. Though.
Don't you always hate me, Gary? It's not really.
Yeah,
it's not really.
yeah.
It's really a known thing. Anyone?
I hate everyone.
Oh man, we're raking in the followers now after they know that you hate everyone. Everyone that interacts with you, you just absolutely hate them.
I'm basically attracting people that also hate everybody. So it's just, it works out.
That's a great way to build the community, where I try to interact with people, try to be nice with them. It's like, yeah, come listen to Jersey Kids podcast because we're nice and inclusive. And then Gary's just wants to crap on everybody. That's nice of you, Gary. That's really nice. It's time to move on to This Week in Gaming, brought to you by Gatorade, but not really. It's actually by Mobile Games, but I do it now because Gary gets annoyed every time I do it, and I keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. Keep going. He stares at me like I'm crazy. So now, what is This Week in Gaming, Gary?
Well, now that I can actually get into the segment, the first game on the list is Rocket League, released on PS4 and Steam back in 2015. This game obviously is very popular.
Is it?
Yeah. And I was reading basically in an article on GameSpot by Eddie McCooch, which is a name that you frequently say.
Machooch, man. Get it right.
Whatever.
Actually, I don't even know that's right. You probably said it right. I just like saying Machooch.
I think I did say it right. But anyway, as of March 10th, 2017, the game has sold 10.5 million copies with nearly 29 million registered players. Now, I was looking up some trivia because I wanted to find something interesting about this game that I didn't know already. So apparently, Rocket League is also a sequel to the 2008 PS3 game Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket-Powered Battle Cars.
Mouthful of a title. You wonder why it didn't sell.
Yeah, for real. But secondly, the crowd in Beckwith Park is actually the entire Psyonix development team screaming and yelling in the middle of their San Diego-based office.
That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Additionally, even on the slowest days, more than 1 million games of Rocket League are played every day. That's, I guess, not too surprising, but still crazy at the same time.
That's insane. It just goes to show you how, like, in the zeitgeist, this game came out of basically nowhere. And I remember listening to insiders talk about Rocket League, saying that this game people should watch because this game is really good. And the fact that it was PS Plus, it was free for that month, just got people into the game, and they're like, holy crap, this game is so much fun. And they continue adding new random crap to the game that people have been enjoying. And it's been going on for right now 2 years? Yeah, 2 years. No, yeah, 2 years. That's how math works.
Yeah, I actually downloaded this game when it came out for free. I enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. It's not a game that I necessarily wanted to keep playing because I didn't really have anyone to play with at the time. But my brother-in-law and his brother-in-law are now playing together, playing duos together. So nice. They're having a good time. Although the community is kind of toxic. I'm not going to lie.
Isn't any internet community nowadays toxic? Any video game, like you go into Dota, League of Legends, Call of Duty, probably Overwatch now, everyone's just screaming their heads off because they're 5-year-olds just wanting to play online, like their balls just drop, so they just feel like they can curse.
Well, see, the sad thing is that it isn't necessarily the kids; it's the grown adults. Like me the other day, I'm playing H1. Guy freaks out on me. He kills me. The guy kills me, and is still angry afterwards. I'm like, dude, I've never been angry after a kill. Literally, never angry. I'm happy. after getting a kill. And this guy's screaming, "How did you hit me with that AR, dude? I know you can spray it, dude." I'm like, okay, take a Xanax, dude. Take a Xanax. Take it easy. Let's just relax.
Oh, that's funny. That is pretty funny, Gary. But yeah, if your friends Gavin and his buddy are playing duos, we mentioned that story a few episodes back. NBC tournament now 2v2. They can go through and win $100,000 if they make it to the end.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe there'll be a scholarship sooner or later for Rocket League.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Man.
It's a future story. Look at that. I'm going to tie it all in.
Yeah,
I'm sort of spoiling things now, so it sort of doesn't make anything. Yeah.
Anyway, the last thing for Rocket League that I found was that the quote-unquote Knights AI in season mode are named after characters from HBO's Game of Thrones. Most of Psyonix's development team are massive fans. Now, additionally, other teams feature AI named after characters from Top Gun, Harry Potter, A Christmas Carol, and The Ring. So just some fun facts. Yeah, I actually found these little trivia things on the Rocket League Reddit by a user named JJTube.
Do you think JJ Tube is one of those guys that just yell at the top of their lungs when he or she is on? Or do you think
someone that's really
think
into
he or
Rocket
she
League?
is just like calm, cool, and collected when they play?
I don't know. Is there ever a middle ground, really? Like a calm guy, but also angry at the same... I don't know. I don't know if there's really ever such thing as a middle ground in video games anymore.
It all depends on what game you're playing. I feel like when I was younger, playing sports games infuriated me to
my God.
end.
Anything competitive. Anything competitive is like just a crapshoot. I mean, I'll be the first to admit, dude. Like Destiny, anything competitive, dude, can really, really piss me off. Like I took a step back the other night. Like I was playing PUBG. I got killed like a couple times out of my spawn. I had like no good gear. I got screwed by my spawn, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna hop off for an hour, just kind of sit around, watch TV. I was actually watching a stream. This one guy. All right, I don't mean to get sidetracked too much, but there was a guy playing H1, and this guy's a damn good player, amazing. But he also gets really pissed off, just like I do. And I was laughing my ass off, dude. His rage is hilarious, great. But so I took a step back.
Quick question with you freaking out about the spawns. Isn't the whole point of PlayerUnknown's Battleground is you can launch wherever you want?
Yeah, but the thing is, like, depending on where you land, it's all like basically random and luck. So if you land, you can land in like what you think is going to be a decent spot, but there's no good gear there. While someone else lands like at a shed somewhere and they get like an M16 armor, helmets, and like you're just completely screwed. So there's definitely luck that goes into it too. Yeah. So, but anyway, onward to the next game, the last game from this week in gaming. It is The Bigs 2, released on PSP, Wii, PS2, PS3, and Xbox 360 in 2009. Now, I remember this game specifically because I could never beat Adam at all in this game, except for I think one time where he threw a wild pitch and I ended up winning because I had the bases loaded. That was like the one time I won. But anyway, this game was the sequel to The Bigs, which came out on June 25th in 2005. I can't believe it was that long ago.
Yeah, I know.
But
it's ridiculous.
It's kind of sickening. But anyway, it's something I found from Wikipedia. The Bigs 2 was actually released in the UK on the 17th of July, 2009. It was the first baseball game to be released in the UK on Xbox 360, and it was released as a budget game with many retailers listing the pre-order for less than €20. So This is the first ever baseball game, interestingly enough. I guess it's interesting because I guess this game's easier to sell than just like a regular simulation baseball game because it's more arcadey and more fun to play and pick up. So interesting. As far as ratings are concerned, this game reviewed pretty well. It basically, I think, got like an 8 out of 10, like around maybe like 76% on Metacritic. It did just as well basically as the first game. But the Wii versions and the PSP versions rated lower both times.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Wii was garbage. Putting it out there.
Agreed. Just saying. Hate Nintendo. Fuck it. Now, the cover athlete for this game was Prince Fielder, who played for the Milwaukee Brewers at the time, which I thought was interesting. He's kind of like washed up now, sadly.
I thought he was in the Tigers now.
But he's also hurt, isn't he? I think he's hurt too.
It's shocking that it took him this long to finally get hurt. The fact that he's so large.
That's what I'm
such
saying,
a large
dude.
Man for a baseball player. It's insane. I think he was like over 300 pounds, which is insane. But he was a good player when he was in his prime. It was nuts.
You know what the kicker is with that story? The fact that apparently he was a vegetarian. Was he eating donuts all this time? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian as he's shoving donuts down his gullet.
Yeah, Oh my God, whatever. Anyway, the last thing I found on this game, this is also from Wikipedia, is that this is basically like a summation of what the Bigs 2 did differently than the first game. So unlike the first game, the Bigs 2 allowed players to play through the full 162 game season and ultimately allowed the player to act both as a general manager and as the players in the field by allowing the player to trade, draft, and manage other front office activities. The game also included new game stats called Power, Glove, and Contact.
Very specific.
Yeah, I figured I'd throw that in there just as a bonus. But yeah, that is it.
Thinking about this game makes me so envious of simulation games, especially simulation baseball games. I feel like, honestly, I do love the show. I like playing Road to the Show, but I don't ever want to play a full baseball game in MLB The Show. I never want to because it goes way too slow, and I really enjoy, Gary putting up his finger right now. Let me finish my thought, Gary. God damn it. But yeah, I enjoy the simulation baseball games because it's just crazy, home runs galore. It always more fast paced, and it's a lot more fun. What are you going to say, Gary?
As disturbing and humiliating as it is to admit this, I actually played through 162 game season with a friend one time.
Oh my God.
It was like over the course of like months, mind you, but we actually played through
MLB The Show too.
Oh yeah.
Oh
dude.
My God.
It was crazy. I don't know how we ever did it, but we won the World Series though. We almost. It was pretty intense in the playoffs because
so you played 162 games and then you played the playoffs.
Yeah, and what's even crazier is once you get to that point and you've played 162 games, the playoffs mean so much to you because you're like, I'm not playing 162 games just to lose now. Like, get the hell out of here.
That's so
and we
true.
almost did.
That was like when we played that NHL season, even though we didn't play that many games during the season, and we were playing that freaking insane playoff run that we had for the Stanley Cup, where we just game 7 after game 7 in each series. It seemed like every team was just crushing us whenever they could, and then we still somehow pulled it out. What was it, Ottawa, where he came back 3-0? Did the unthinkable. That's how good we were. Just kidding. I think it was just fluke. But Gary, is that all for this week in gaming?
That is all, sir.
That is also, I'm going to start moving on to the news. I'm just going to read this article. I normally put bullet points, but I'm just going to go straight. Allison Tinnery over at Vice writes, video games have already been awfully wrongly blamed for violence, laziness, and educational failures. Now, thanks to a new paper released by the National Bureau of Economic Research on Monday, gamers are enduring yet another personal attack. This time, economists are arguing that innovations in video games could be affecting the amount of men in the workforce, the New York Times reports. Authors of the paper, quote, Leisure, Luxuries, and the Labor Supply of Young Men, end quote, asked the following question. How much have innovations to leisure technology reduced the labor supply of younger men? Specifically, how has the evolution of video games and other recreational computer activities affected this? What the authors estimate is that video games have been responsible for reducing the amount of young men work in a year by 15 to 30 hours since 2004. Data from American Time Youth Surveys shows that between 2004 and 2015, leisure time of young men went up by 2.3 hours a week. When it comes to video gaming in particular, young Americans spent 60% of their extra leisure time playing video games. Leisure time of women of the same age group grew by 1.4 hours during that time span. However, a negligible amount of this leisure time was spent on video games. For older men and women, video games also accounted for a negligible amount of leisure time. By 2015, men 21 to 30 were working less per year than the same age group was working at the turn of the century, 203 fewer hours. The change in hours worked per year for younger men stands at odds with the men ages 31 to 50, who only worked 163 hours fewer. Though the paper makes a connection of evolution of gaming technology in relation to the number of young men in the workforce, there is undoubtedly an array of complex issues such as labor demand and wages that have contributed in the U.S. Before anyone comes at me over a woman, I like to point out that I have no room to talk as someone who has spent entirely too much of my life playing World of Warcraft. That's how she ended it. Gary, I just want to get your initial thoughts on this article and how you feel about this study.
I mean, I have to be honest. Like every time I read these articles, I kind of just get a chuckle because I just feel like all these studies, they always ignore like crucial things. It's always like it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's like they're saying here at the end of the article. I mean, there's so many different factors that can go into the fact that there's more leisure time now for men and women. I mean, and on top of that, is that really a bad thing that we have more leisure time? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like working my life away and not having not being like the idea of not being home with my family and friends. That kind of bothers me. So I think a leisure time is actually a good thing. Call me crazy.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think the innovation of technology allows for, more in the leisure time, how a lot of things have made it easier for people in the workforce. It's not like, I'm guessing a few centuries back, there's probably more labor-intensive work, and there's more people in labor-intensive jobs where it took a lot longer, and they didn't want to be. I guess there was a stigma in video games where they didn't want to be playing video games during their leisure time, and the thing that sort of irked me is that it talks about leisure time and how they're spending more, their young men are spending more time in their leisure time playing video games. I'm like, is that wrong? What's the difference between if they played video games versus if they read a book or if they watched movies? I don't understand why they try to make a connection to video games where also there's a lot of other outside influences on leisure time for young men and women that I don't think you can ever pinpoint it on one thing particular. I feel like it's a lot of differing aspects that come in, and I never understood why people try to correlate one thing to another one thing, because that's never right.
Well, not only that, but I guess adding on to this point, like if you look from a different perspective, from like an employer perspective, I feel like you'd be very happy with this study, because as an employer, do you want your employee going home and doing drugs when they get home in their leisure time? I mean, that could be a reality. Like, do you want someone just shooting up heroin or playing video games? There's a trade-off there. I think I would much rather, as a boss, have like, oh, my Jim is playing PUBG right now, and he's not, shooting up heroin. So he'll come in on Monday and be a productive member of society. Just saying.
You heard it from here. You heard it from here first, folks. Gary stated on Two Jersey Kids that if someone in their leisure time is not playing video games, they are definitely shooting up heroin or snorting cocaine.
I'm just trying to say, look, there's a lot worse things that can be done in your leisure time than playing video games, and we all know that because obviously we're all video game fans in this podcast, which is Two Jersey Kids. So yeah,
and it just seems like sometimes these studies are from people that don't quite understand the purpose or why people enjoy video games, and that a lot of people can get a lot of different things out of video games. Video games can be emotional. Video games can be a time sink, but they also you can get something out of it. And I just feel like sometimes they're coming from the wrong place, and they're coming from this wrong stigma that video games are bad, and the fact that people are spending leisure time, which I'm sure if people heard about this, that there's more leisure time in there for people, I'm sure they'd be happy about it, because I've heard all the time people talk about like, oh man, I would love to have more time to do such and such, or I'd have more time to go on vacations, or more time to do this. Why does it matter where they're spending their time?
Exactly. I completely agree.
Yeah, done with this garbage study. Moving on.
The hell with it.
On September 29th, Xbox and Windows players will be able to get their hands on the old-school Disney-style hand-drawn platformer that is CupHead. On NeoGAF this week, a reader asked the developer studio MDHR, quote, "So is this game 100% lifetime PC Microsoft exclusive?" And, quote, Studio MDHR responded in the following way, quote, "Yes, this CupHead game is exclusive to Xbox and PC, parentheses, with Steam and Windows 10 versions at launch and a GOG release likely shortly after," and parentheses, quote, "There will likely be a Mac version down the road and possibly a Linux version beyond that," parentheses, "unless we lose our houses or whatever," and parentheses, end quote. And I just wanted to include this in here because a lot of people were excited for a while now. A few years back, CupHead blew onto the scene at E3. It was a crazy indie new game designed in the old, I don't know if you've seen this art style, Gary, but it's basically like old Disney Mickey Mouse style, hand drawn, animated. Looks very beautiful, and it was specifically just boss fights, and then they went back and started adding more things in between the boss fights. And I know it was like last E3, not this past one, but the prior one, that when people were playing it, they thought the platforming and everything wasn't quite as good as when the boss fights. So they have, I'm hoping they've gone back and tweaked it. And really, I included this. One, it stinks it's not coming to PS4, but I mean, Xbox do need exclusives, and they're getting this cool indie exclusive. But the one thing I was starting to think is it strange that do you think it's a detriment that Xbox is having these exclusives specifically for its Xbox, and then it's also coming to Windows, it's like coming to PC, whereas if you see a lot of with Sony, their exclusive, or Nintendo, a lot of their exclusives never come to PC, and you can only get it on their system themselves, like say Bloodborne or Uncharted. A lot of people, I think, wanted to get the next basically Souls game, which was Bloodborne at the time, and maybe some people went out to get a PS4 specifically for that because they can't get it on Steam, like certain games that are exclusive for Xbox, but they'd still come to Steam. I can understand why it does, because Microsoft, being a computer company, sort of has that relationship, and it makes sense for them to go that route. But I'm just curious because I feel like they're more likely for Nintendo. These games are more likely to be system sellers, in my opinion, if they're specifically coming to that console and nowhere else. You have to go to that console to purchase. You have to purchase that game on that console to play it, nowhere else. I just want to get your thoughts on that, honestly.
I mean, I don't know if it's a detriment. It's like you said. I mean, I feel like regardless of whether or not this game, Cuphead, sells on
the sequel to Cookie Clicker.
Yeah, damn straight, dude. Great game. But I think regardless of whether or not it sells on Xbox or PC, it doesn't really matter for Microsoft because they're still making that money anyway. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter if it's PC or Xbox, they're still making that cash. So I don't really think it's a detriment. But I mean, I can see what you're saying. If they wanted to sell more consoles, then yeah, it could be a detriment, because then people that have PCs will just get it on Steam as opposed to actually buying a brand new console. So that could be a detriment there. But something I thought was interesting in the comment section that I was just reading, is this really news? Because this guy here was like, the E3 2015 trailer said in the, I guess, the description of the trailer that the game was an Xbox One console exclusive. And I'm not sure.
No, I don't think it was news. I think from what I was reading in the forums itself, it seemed like it was just confusion with a lot of announcements prior, that they weren't sure whether or not it was timed exclusive or if it was coming to PS4. And I think this was just clearing it up so people knew.
Okay, so now it's just the official that we're never bringing it over. Okay, I understand.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see how people go out and play this game. I'll probably check it out when it comes to the Mac version, because I'm one of those simpletons that have a Mac. I'm not PC Master Race quite yet. Maybe I will become one. But the game looks really cool. I love the beautiful art style, and hopefully they fixed that platforming and made things more smooth and fluid in between, and I hope it does well. I really do hope these unique games do well. I never want them to do bad, unless they're EA, of course, because Internet Hive Mind, FEA. Moving on. Horizon Zero Dawn is apparently getting an update. Patch 1.30 provides New Game Plus and an Ultra Hard difficulty, along with adding new trophies and unlockables. Ultra Hard difficulty enhances machine senses and behavior, according to Gorilla. Should be note that once you go ultra hard, you can't go back. And I made sure to put in there's some sexual jokes somewhere in that statement, but I could not think of them at the time, and I still can't think of one right now. Horizon's developers spare people who start a New Game Plus from replaying the game's introductory levels. You can skip a gift from the past and Lessons of the Wild quest and begin with the Point of the Spear, a quest that begins with you needing to find Rost. You'll still need to do the proving and some other stuff before the game fully opens. And if you haven't played the game, you probably don't understand what we're talking about. But I do think it's kind of cool that they're adding this. I remember beating the game, and I always thought it was weird that you're just going back to the time before you do the final set of missions. Basically it is. And now there's that New Game Plus feature where if you go back into the game, I think you have to reload the game where you finally beat it, and the credits go through, and then you'll have the New Game Plus option, whereas if you start out from where you were prior, you're not going to have that option when you hop right in, so I think you have to load up a later save after you technically beat the game. So I think this is kind of cool, free addition to it. If people want more Horizon, they can do New Game Plus, they can get more trophies, which is awesome. Who doesn't love more trophies? What are your thoughts, Gary?
I'm happy that they added in the New Game Plus, because I also agree. I didn't really like the fact that once you beat the game, they just sent you back before you beat the game. It never felt, like you said, it never felt right to me to go back to that point in time.
Yeah, it felt weird because I remember they did that in Fallout 4, I believe. Or no, Fallout 4, you just couldn't. You had to reload a save and you couldn't beat.
Yeah.
No, not Fallout 4. Fallout 3. Fallout 3. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up. Fallout 3. Before they updated it, you can, if you beat the game, you were just done. So you had to reload it. The game was just over. There was no portion afterwards. Even if you technically had your character survive, there was nothing, which is kind of strange, especially for an open world game. And I kind of like the fact that they're adding this and also adding new trophies to it, which gives people that do enjoy the series, you know, more things to do in it, which is always nice.
Yeah. I mean, personally, like, with this update, I mean, I'm glad that they're updating the game and they're, you know, adding stuff to it, but I don't know if it's enough to bring me back right now. The New Game Plus, that would be, I guess, what I would go for. I'm not sure if I'm going to be playing on the ultra hard difficulty anytime soon, but I know for people that are, like you said, a big fan of trophies and a big fan of challenges and stuff, this update is basically right up your alley. So check it out.
Go for it. Moving on. Assassin's Creed is apparently getting an animated series, and it's coming from the Castlevania showrunner. The Hollywood producer Adi Shankar, behind Dread, Lone Survivor, The Voices, and the showrunner for the new Netflix Castlevania series, will be working on an Assassin's Creed anime series. It will be entirely new and an original story. Adi Shankar sounds like he is a fan of the franchise by stating, quote, I played the first edition of Assassin's Creed the year I moved to Los Angeles. At that moment, I knew absolutely no one in the industry and could have never imagined that one day Ubisoft would ask me to take the world of Assassin's Creed and create an original anime story set in as an anime series, end quote. Assassin's Creed head of content Zia Aymar, man, I'm spot on with these names.
You
confirmed
get these
on
names,
Twitter,
these great names, I'll tell you.
I know, right? Confirmed on Twitter that Ubisoft is involved with the project. It is important to note that no other details have been announced as of yet. For example, it has not been announced that it's going to be on Netflix or when it's coming out or anything, who's in it, nothing. Just that this is the showrunner for Castlevania will be the showrunner for Assassin's Creed. And I put it up on Twitter, which was apparently talking about Assassin's Creed does wonders for me because it happened before. But talking about how I feel like TV shows and anime series are the most conducive right now for video games because it never seems right trying to pack especially these 40-hour games into a 2-hour movie. It never seems like it's the same thing with a book, is that sometimes these long, drawn-out books, you can never pack in everything that people want and experience from reading a book or play during the game that you can't pack the emotional effects that you get while playing and controlling the character, or reading, when you're reading a book, you can't hear the thoughts that the character is actually having in a movie, and it's sort of a different... It just doesn't. Movies aren't necessarily the best to dive into the nitty gritty things that would happen in a video game franchise or video game series. And I think it's kind of cool that Ubisoft is allowing this showrunner and these writers to do an original story. They're not saying fit in this timeline during this period when Desmond was around or when Desmond's not around, or they're just letting them go, which I think writers and creative people really appreciate, and I think Ubisoft being a part of it, I hope they don't try to put their hands too much into the creativity aspect of what writers can do with this series, because it's kind of a cool concept that this series is. What are your thoughts, Gary? Well,
the question I had was, is this anime series, do you think that people are going to be sort of turned off because it's more Assassin's Creed related stuff being thrown at them, or do you think that it's going to be successful in its own right?
See, here's the thing. I feel like, because you see it all the time when you have these Assassin's Creed articles that are posted, they get a lot more traffic. I mean, that's why people still post them to this day, like IGN, GameSpot. They get a lot of traffic. So people do enjoy Assassin's Creed. And me personally, I like the world and the world that they build. It's fascinating going back and doing like revisionist alternate history type deal. I could see where in this show they actually play more into what the original first 4 games were like, where you're actually like a character that goes into the Animus and goes back in time, and it's sort of a playing between the two, the futurist portion and the past. And it's sort of, I think anime is conducive to allow more of a spectacle that is, instead of like movies where it's just CGI, where you come into anime, you expect ridiculous things because it's just all hand-drawn and animated.
I agree actually with that. I don't think that. I almost think it's impossible sometimes to make a video game into like an actual movie. I've said it so many times, but like it's just so hard to, like you said, it's only like a couple hours, maybe 3 hours, where you have, time to pack in all this stuff from a video game or like from a video game series, and it's just so hard to capture that what was so great about the game in a movie, And anime series, like you said, it's going to be a little bit easier, I think, because people already expect something that's a little over the top. So for Assassin's Creed, it might work out just fine.
And I feel like. And another point when it comes to making a video game franchise into a movie is that movies can't touch on those little things that happen in video games. Those random, unexplained things that always, any gamer out there knows that some random thing happens. Like if you're playing Halo, it just randomly somebody, when you're running at the end, like for example, the first Halo, and when you're running towards the ship and one of your buddies gets stuck with a grenade right on the face, that doesn't happen to everybody. There's a lot of random things that happen in video games that make it special for you, special for that person.
Well, that's the thing too. It's the playing the video game. That's why people love the game. When you're sitting back and you have to watch a show based on a video game, it's a totally different like dynamic there, and that's what's so hard about making these sorts of things. I said it in past episodes where, I played KOTOR, and that was a great game, and I love that game. But as a movie, I don't know. It might not be. It might not work out as well as it did when you play through and you go through the experience, the experiences that you go through, and the battles that you fight, and the failures, and then the success. So, it's got to be so hard to do this.
And I feel like KOTOR, like that example, I feel like it's better it's more conducive for, a TV series, because there's a lot of, it's a long story, branching routes. You can there's consequences, decisions throughout. I mean, that makes KOTOR, where you have to make the decision. That's why people, I think, enjoyed it so much, is that there's different branches that you can take. So that's another thing that's a little difficult with a TV show. You just follow this one route. But the fact that they're doing original story, new story, they can go wherever. They have the framework of the world, but they're not set in stone of what they have to write for, at least I hope. And I feel like that will be for the betterment of this, animated series, is that these writers they have this franchise and they can do what they want with it. They don't have to, try to shoehorn in certain things, which I feel like is going to be... I feel like that's good for this franchise and this animated series. That's just my thing. But you have anything before I move on?
Keep it going.
Moving on. Apparently, I don't know if people are sad about this, but on November 1st, Sony will shut down Tomorrow Children, a year after its launch. Tomorrow Children was described in the Your Gamer article as, quote, a quasi-MMO town-building tower defense sandbox game, end quote. Japanese PlayStation website noted, quote, there is only a short amount of time remaining. However, the Tomorrow Children development and operations team hope that you can all continue to enjoy our title until the end of service, and we would like to extend our thanks and best wishes to you all who continue to enjoy and play our game. The reason I put this in here, one, I remember Tomorrow Children at certain E3s, how it was not really a staple, but it was a unique game that people were drawn to, and how like the art style and it just seemed like it was a standout during certain their conferences. And then a few months back, it came out for the beta. And I think I hopped into it and it didn't really catch me, but I know some people, I think it did. But then afterwards, there was nothing. I never heard anything about it. I never heard anything regarding this franchise, this game, and I feel like that was a failure on the promotional aspect. And I feel like that's also sometimes with console games, the issue of doing these early access type deals or these beta type deals, is especially if the beta basically goes for a long period of time up until the release, because no one knows when the actual release is, and it just feels like it's not really a game. It's just like you're hopping in and it just keeps going, and then no one knows when it's released. And that's like the main thing, is when there's the best time for sales for a game is the release. It's not like if it's a drawn out thing, like, I don't know, it just seems like it's sort of a flub on Sony's part for promoting this game.
What's interesting too is I mean, this isn't a game I'm really interested in necessarily, but when I was reading the comments about what people had to say, a lot of people were talking about how they gave the game a shot when it came out, but they felt like the game was really aimless, and they didn't really understand what was the purpose of the game. And I couldn't help but just kind of like draw the parallel to No Man's Sky, where the game comes out, it's like, you have like so many things you can possibly do, but in the end, you really have nothing to do. And it's just like, well, here I am, and that's the end of it. And I feel like it's got to be so hard to continue working on a game when you really don't have a player base left. Like No Man's Sky, they can release the updates all they want. And granted, I've played the game after they updated it a couple times, and it was fun to kind of get back into the game and see some new things, but they're never going to be able to get back that player base that they lost right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. So, after a certain amount of time, you just kind of cut ties, kind of like they're doing right here, unfortunately.
That's why these unique sort of sandbox type games, they like No Man's Sky or Tomorrow's Children, sorry. But I feel like you need to have it right from the get-go, and I know that maybe sound crucial, especially for some of these AAA games where it seems like they screw up, and I feel like you need to have something there for the players and not make it, you need to, I don't know, you just need to have something for people to bite into so they can stay there, so you keep them there until you add more to it.
Yeah, it's got to be the foundation. You got to have a solid place to build off of, at least. And in No Man's Sky, for example, they didn't really have much of a foundation. It was just a massive galaxy. And granted, you did have a lot of ways you could go with the game, but they didn't really have a tremendous foundation. So what was that?
I'm not going to contradict myself, because I know I said on this podcast that I felt like No Man's Sky was a great foundation, but the reason I feel like No Man's Sky failed, I feel like it still has a great foundation, is that they destroyed their foundation with the shit that they promised. They promised, they didn't promise just a foundation. They promised like a freaking 3-story house with hot tubs and jacuzzis and water slides everywhere, instead of just promising what the foundation would be and explain to players that they're going to build from that. No, they promised the fucking 7-story mansion instead of promising what actually would have been there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. And I remember saying back in the day that the game had a solid foundation and could grow from there. So I did kind of contradict myself, but I'm trying to explain it in a way that makes sense. So I hope it made sense.
It definitely did. Everything on this podcast always 100% makes sense. Guaranteed. Don't tweet at me. Actually, just tweet at the podcast, at Two Jersey Kids. Let me know if I'm wrong, or just tweet us in general. We love interacting with all of you out there. If you're a new listener, I really hope you're enjoying this crap show that is Two Jersey Kids. We are the best. I know. Rate us 5 stars, please, on iTunes. Yep. I did laugh. I saw one of your comments on this next one, so we'll get to it. Your snarky comment. Apparently, Super Mario Odyssey will now not have a game over screen. Stated on an official Japanese Super Mario Odyssey Twitter page, quote, even if Mario's health drops to 0, you'll just lose 10 of your coins, no matter how many times you fail, though there is no game over. Then there was a follow-up tweet, quote, by the way, if you fail with 9 coins or less, it won't be game over. Please enjoy exploring without worry, end quote. I wanted to point out, it seems like game overs are becoming a thing of the past, specifically, especially older games where they seem like they were adding these game overs to make games longer, such as Castlevania. And from your snarky comment, I just want to know what your thoughts are, Gary.
Look, seriously, like, what is game over just too traumatizing for today's gamers? Like, oh God, I failed. It's time to end my life. Like, come on. I don't know. I really got nothing to say. It just reminds me so much of like the participation trophy. It's like, congratulations, you did something. Here's a participation trophy. You didn't win. You didn't do anything really. You just were there. But yeah, here's your trophy. I think it makes more sense for games nowadays to not have game overs, because they're so sprawling. There's a lot of things to do. A lot of people don't want to just go back to the start or go back to the beginning. It depends, okay?
Certain types of games, I feel like, especially if you're going out and exploring like Super Mario, where it's not like a hardcore game like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, I feel like, maybe they just don't want to punish their game, or they just want to have a good time exploring the world. It is kind of strange, though, with Super Mario. Especially, it makes more sense whether they have like a health bar, like in Super Mario 64, where you get popped out of the world, but you're still allowed to go back into it and retry it. It just seems like it's basically no consequences unless you fall off the map, even though you go back to the same place, or run into somebody and you just lose coins, even though coins you can purchase certain things, but it's not really. It's like Sonic, where if you lose rings in those Sonic games, no one bats an eye because you already have 10 million of them.
Yeah. I mean, look, it depends on the game, I guess, that we're talking about here. I guess Super Mario, like you said, it's not like a hardcore game. But, I mean, I understand the game, the game over thing can be frustrating because I remember there were some games where you would die and you'd be sent back like 20 minutes before that where you died. And it's like, well, what the fuck? I got to play through this entire thing again? Like, that's annoying.
Yeah.
I get that. But, like, come on. I mean, if you fail and then you're respawned in like a relative area of where you just were, I don't really see what's a big deal about that. So call me crazy. I'm just old fashioned.
Here's an old grouch, Gary. But it could have an effect on loading times. Maybe just not having to reload the game world itself. If you die and come back, you have to reload everything. Maybe just saying F it, lose coins instead of reloading all the assets. Who knows? Moving on, Gary. University of California, Irvine will offer an esports scholarship for top Overwatch players, which will add to the second title in its esports scholarship series, which kicked off last fall with League of Legends. I remember we talked about it, and I think that was part of the episode 5, the long lost episode 5, where we got into a whole discussion,
that pisses me off.
and we lost all the audio. But apparently you receive $2,500 a year so long as you dedicate 15 to 20 hours per week for practice, team meetings, community service, workouts, competitions during the game season. Now, I'm not sure how much tuition costs for California, University of California, Irvine, but $2,500 a year this day and age sounds like absolutely nothing for 15 to 20 hours per week along with schoolwork. That seems like nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no details when we talked about... I don't think there was that many details when we talked about League of Legends, but now that you have this detail of how little they're getting paid or how little the scholarship is, what are your thoughts on this, Gary?
Well, the first thing, I just think it's an interesting situation we find ourselves in nowadays where a university is actually telling people to dedicate a certain amount of time to a video game. I mean, I just I find that kind of funny because it's like most of the time, like professors or even parents, families, they'll be like, oh, you're spending too much time playing video games. But yeah, you have your university.
You know why, Gary? You know why? It's because universities now see how much revenue esports are bringing in now, and how the market has gone up and up and up. And that's why they have football teams. That's why they have basketball teams. Is because it's just bringing in revenue for the schools. And I mean, esports right now they're projected by 2020 it's going to bring in revenue of $1.5 billion, which is insane. Which it puts it above a lot of lower sort of professional sports league. It's obviously not in the top 4 or top 5 with the Premier League included, but it's getting up there.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Just remember, folks, when it comes to college, they don't care about your education. They care about the cash. Remember that. Money first. That's all that matters. See, I graduated from college. So did Adam. It's a scam. Trust me. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that too far. It gets me pissed off. But
I wouldn't go so far as it's a scam.
It absolutely is. It's
a lot of money to pay, but for certain degrees, I feel like it's sort of necessary to get the necessary experience and knowledge.
That's true.
But again, coming out of college and then certain jobs you get into, you don't use nearly as much as what you've learned.
Well, that's the whole point, and it's. I've been saying for the longest time, college should be you go there, you learn about what you want to do. I mean, obviously, it's really hard to decide what you want to do because I still don't know what I want to do. But you should be able to go to college and learn about what you're going to major in. You shouldn't have to go there and have to go through high school again. I had to do elementary
bullshit core classes.
Yeah, English Comp 1 and 2. You know how ridiculous that is? That is legalized stealing. That's what that is, folks. Legalized stealing. It's not well-rounded. It's not well-rounded. No. I went to high school already. I don't need to do it again.
I think that's one thing that colleges fail at nowadays is they don't sort of allow environment for students to, one, challenge themselves because nowadays students just want to bitch and moan when things don't go the way they think they should. Yeah. 2, it doesn't help them, get to what they want to do. I feel like that's the main issue nowadays with colleges, that a lot of students still don't know what they want to do, and they're like, oh, well, this seems somewhat interesting, but they don't, because college is so expensive. You can't waste your time spending multiple years going from major to major trying to figure out what you want because it's such a money pit. Money suck from you. Later on in life, you can't sit around and try to figure out what you want to do, and it's kind of sad. These scholarships are dirt cheap. They're not giving these players anything, which I feel like if you're going from $2,500 a year to the amount of what these players probably will end up bringing in for the school is kind of insane in my opinion.
I mean, in all seriousness, like I remember saying before that I didn't really agree with this, but I don't really give a shit anymore. You know what? if people want to be gamers and they are going to be offered money to play, fuck it, go for it, do it. I mean,
if you're gonna get paid a scholarship to go to school to play video games and then you get a free tuition, all for it. Good on you. However, the $2,500 a year doesn't seem like it's for 15 to 20 hours a week.
Chump change, baby.
Is not that much, I think, in terms of how much an actual that may pay for the books that year, and then maybe one class. I think maybe.
Oh my god, legalized stealing.
Moving on. Apparently, Shadow of War lets you import the worst enemy from Shadow of Mordor. A new update is coming to the original Shadow of Mordor, which will allow your, quote, greatest nemesis, quote, to live on in Shadow of War. The update will be free on PS4, Xbox One, and Steam, and it will be called the Nemesis Forge. The update lets players automatically detect a player's highest ranked orc nemesis that will bring that individual over to Shadow of War. Additionally, the update will import each player's most loyal orc follower, bolstering Talion's forces as he continues to fight against the forces of Mordor. I think this is freaking rad. I feel like this is a great idea for Monolith Studios, I feel like that's the developer's name. I think that's the developer's name. But good idea, because the Nemesis system allowed for great stories being told, not through the main storyline of Shadow of Mordor. And some people playing this game had this one nemesis that they couldn't quite get rid of because it always came back, got higher, larger, stronger, and it was sort of a back and forth. And no spoilers or anything, but at the end of the game, it sort of plays into the fact that your largest nemesis is sort of leading the forces against you in a certain area where you're attacking and everything, which is kind of cool. Gary, definitely check out the game, you mother effer. God damn it. It's so annoying that you haven't checked out this game, and I feel like it's worth it because it's fun. It's really cool gameplay. I've gone through it plenty of times. Feels great. Now that they're adding this, it gives you a reason to go back or go and play this game, and then you can have that one freaking thorn in your side to dig deeper and continue with you until you get to the next game. And I just feel like, this is what developers should do to allow. And it's like a little thing. It's like with the Horizon thing. It's like a little thing to the gamers that allow them to, connect more, or it gives more to them. And I just think it's kind of a cool thing.
Indeed. I'll have to actually play the game. I feel like I'm doing it out of spite at this point when I'm not playing it, but it was
$4 Steam sale,
I know,
Gary.
I know.
I really hope you hit that buy button. I really do. And I don't want to know whether or not you hit yes or no, because I feel like I know the answer, and I feel like I'm going to be pissed off. Moving on.
Yeah.
There was a Nintendo Direct about Splatoon 2, and also one of the major things, it showed off the Nintendo's phone app, which will go live with Splatoon 2, which is exciting for people that own Nintendo Switches, and now they can have an online service. Splatoon showcased a mobile feature called Splatnet 2. It will be available as part of the Nintendo Switch online phone app coming alongside the game on July 21st. Here are some features mentioned regarding Splatnets. Players will be able to review their previous matches, player statistics, and examine gear loadout of allies and opponents. A schedule will keep track of upcoming events such as map rotations for ranked battles and Splatfests. Lifetime linkage or inkage is tracked, telling players how much ink they fired. Players can check to see which real-life monuments they could have covered with all of their ink. Gear is available for purchase, which can be picked up later in the game's hub world, Inkopolis Square. Gary, your thoughts on now this mobile app that is going to be used for Nintendo's online service?
Well, it still seems like, I know I'm against it personally. I'm not really on board, but
Nintendo
it seems like
hater.
Okay, so it looks like the majority of people are pretty pissed about this whole mobile app idea. Not just me. Yeah. But I will say that I know this isn't really on the same level as the mobile app. Like when I play Destiny, for example, I have a mobile app that coincides with the game that allows me to switch like weapons between characters and stuff like that. And it's really useful, but at the same time, I feel like given the chance, I would love something that's in game that or like on the console that I can do this, make it like I want something that's on the console. You know what I'm saying? And I don't really like the idea of mobile apps being connected to the game necessarily, especially ones that are like this like meaningful to the game. I guess if that's the word I'm trying to search for. So, Yeah,
it's kind of strange that the online features like doing that stuff is not in the game itself. And I guess it kind of goes to show that maybe the Switch's online service or online capabilities aren't necessarily up to snuff. I don't know that they have to go through a mobile app, which is a roundabout way. For a mobile device, you have to now bring another mobile device to then play online and connect to friends. It just seems like a roundabout way, and I don't know if it seems like sometimes Nintendo has been off the mark, especially when it comes to online services where they still have friend codes and things along that nature. It just seems like it's not quite there, and maybe this is them realizing, like, shit, we need to include online feature for our console, so let's throw it on everyone has a phone, let's throw it onto that.
Well, and they also there's a person in the comments section on this article too that was like, oh well, I don't really understand what the big problem is because people have their phones on them all the time nowadays, and it's like, well, the real problem here is the fact that this Nintendo Switch is supposed to be this crazy innovation. We're taking steps forward into the future, folks. You can have your Switch docked and on the go, but you need to bring your phone with you if you want to play online. Like, what sense does that make? It just seems like such a meaning, like it just seems so stupid to have something else that you need when you have your Nintendo Switch undocked. Like, I mean, or even docked for that matter. I don't know. I don't really get the whole idea. Not a fan.
Rage,
zero out of 10 would not recommend.
Yes, let the fire consume you.
Yeah, consumed. Dark side points.
On that note, I think this is a wrap for all the news this week. Gary, before we go, do you have anything to say to all the listeners out there? Do you have anything to say to me? Anything you're going to be doing? Anything you want to be putting out there? I don't know. Are you going to be doing any streaming anytime soon now that you're part of the PC Master Race and you do have a face for streaming? Look at that beautiful thing. It is gorgeous, people. I'm not talking it up. I'm dead serious. You're going to fall in love with Gary. Then you're going to fall... I don't know what I'm saying now, but you're going to fall in love with the podcast as well, because you're going to then, as soon as you hear or see his face, then you can picture his face during the podcast, and it'll make you love it even more.
He's probably right. No, but I mean, going forward, I guess this weekend or this week, I'm probably going to... I think I'm going to stream tomorrow. Or today, if you're listening. Obviously, you're going to be listening today on Friday. I don't know what I'm going to stream just yet. Tomorrow, like, I'll probably be with friends playing, so I'll have like, a couple of people to bounce off of, and it'll be kind of funny because we're all idiots. I might be playing Destiny. I might be playing PUBG a little bit too. So just kind of going to screw around, just have fun with it, see what happens. Who the hell knows?
Let's see if you can get your stream up and running in a decent quality tomorrow. Yeah,
that should be interesting, actually. I've been toying with – I've been looking into that and trying to figure out ways to make it work, and it should be interesting to see how that works. I'm looking forward to kind of testing it out. I actually might test it out tonight, which is Thursday, for people that aren't aware. I'm going to actually test it out and see how it works without posting anything on Twitter. I don't want to epically fail.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just get it down, and then you can tweet it out, and I'll be sure to make sure people watch it. What I'll be doing this weekend, since you rudely didn't ask, even though I
don't give a damn.
Fair enough. But next week, you'll probably be seeing me in a new position, new environment, because I'll be moving apartments. It should be exciting and stressful stuff at the same time. Be moving this Saturday, so yay for that. I'm excited. I don't know if I'll be playing any games anytime soon, but hopefully I do. Maybe I'll be playing some more Realm Grinders, because that's what I can do right now, because there's boxes everywhere, and everything are in boxes. But yeah, so we really appreciate all of you guys. We're definitely going to be hitting over, hearing this now, we're probably going to be over 15,000 all-time downloads, which is fucking amazing. So we appreciate all you guys listening. We really do. Please let us know. I know the survey is probably going to be done by the time this podcast comes out, but we're trying to decide whether or not to continue with the 2 episodes a week. We may do Tuesday episodes for, like, if we're playing a PS Plus game, which I need to get into now because I forgot we have to play that. But to discuss it.
True.
Yeah, but we really appreciate you so much. Please, if you appreciate us, if you love us, and you're on an Apple phone or on your computer right now, go to iTunes and please give us a rating. It'll help us out greatly. It'll hopefully give us more people to listen to this beautiful podcast that is Two Jersey Kids, and build a fan base, build a community, build a fun time for Gary and me.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, again, we appreciate you and love you all. So I hope you keep listening, and we'll be seeing you definitely next Friday. That's for sure. We got to figure that out, Gary. But Gary, you have anything to say?
Nah. I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll see you all later. Peace.
Bye. All right, all. Have a good one. Keep playing those games. We love you. Appreciate you. Bye. We out.